Well, at least Kyle Busch got out of the Truck Series at the right time. All right. I hope you enjoyed that intro. Welcome back, everybody, to In the Lead, the podcast where we talk about racing. Daytona weekend, it is over. It's in the books. Let's talk about it. We're going to start with the Friday races, with the truck race and the ARCA race, otherwise known as the Wreckfest. Because both of those races were Wreckfest, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a single lap turned of either race. And I'll tell you why. Because I knew those races were not going to be very entertaining. I just had a feeling the truck race was not going to be good, and lo and behold, I was right. I seen stuff on social media about it, and I was like, whoa, doesn't look good. They started wrecking on lap 6. The big one happened on lap 6, for crying out loud. So if that was any indication on how that truck race was going to go, oh boy, that was, if that was any indication, that was. And then they moved the ARCA race to Friday night after the truck race, which I thought was a smart move considering the weather. And the ARCA race was not much better. They started wrecking 2 laps earlier on lap 4 of their race. So, yeah, it wasn't good. Unless you like Wreckfest, then this week, if I want to watch a Wreckfest, I'll watch a Demolition Derby. Not this. And then we had to sit around and wait for 48 hours before we could get the Daytona 500 in the Xfinity race in. I watched the Daytona 500 yesterday, and it was actually a good race. It was actually a great race, except for that finish. Let's talk about the finish. Okay, so coming to the white flag, 1 to go. Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain, the 2 and the 1 respectively, spin. They make contact, they spin. Okay, no big deal. Then Cindric comes back up on the racetrack, and that's when they called a caution. Now, at that moment, it looked like Bowman was in the lead. He was not. He was Byron. Now, and then, of course, social media went up in arms saying, whoa. Was Bowman the winner or was Byron the winner? Everybody thought that Bowman won. But NASCAR said not so fast. They put out a picture not too long after the race, and everything calmed down, where they showed the picture of what they used to determine the winner, and using that picture, they determined that Byron was the winner. And looking at that picture, I am now agreeing with them. But there was another angle on the Fox broadcast, which we will talk about the Fox broadcast in detail coming up. That's a whole nother subject. We will talk about that in a moment. But on the Fox broadcast, they talked about, or they showed an onboard of Bowman. When the caution light came on, he was out in front. So, but again, NASCAR put that picture out on Facebook and Twitter that Byron was out in front when they called the caution. So, I guess Bowman is the runner-up, and Byron won the race. But beyond that, it was a great race. That wreck towards the end took out pretty much a lot of cars. Again, that was another case of what happened with what happened with Blaney on Thursday in the dual races. It was just a bad. Byron was not lined up. Bowman tried to give a push. Byron got loose, got into Keselowski. It was on from there. Took out the dominant car of the day, Joey Logano. He led 40-some laps of that race. He was the pole sitter. He was the dominant car of the day as far as that was concerned. So he was taken out in that wreck. But Hendrick on the 40th anniversary to the day that they opened their doors and they started racing in the NASCAR Cup Series, win the Daytona 500 with their driver, William Byron, who got the most wins last year at 6. He got the most wins last season, and he continues that this season so far. He has won the Great American Race. Now let's talk about the Fox broadcast. Whew. Let's talk about that. And as usual, the Fox broadcast was atrocious. You had a Wendy's advertisement right in the middle of the race with like 40-some laps to go. That was stupid. They missed the wreck at the beginning there with Hocevar and Harrison Burton. They missed that wreck. When Mike Joy said trouble, they took like up to 3 seconds to get to that wreck because they were showing onboard cameras. When the pack was 3 wide, again, that was pathetic. You had, of course, the commercial breaks. My goodness, the commercial breaks. I don't know if there were as many commercial breaks last year or this year as there were last year. Last year was bad. Oh, my goodness. This year, it didn't seem like it was too bad. You had to crank it up during a yellow flag, which I don't understand where that came from. But I don't know whose brilliant idea that was, because that was just pathetic. But you had that. And then the finish, they actually I will give them credit for 2 things. Number one, staying with that yellow flag at the end of the race. Staying with the yellow flag towards the end of the race. With that big wreck with 8 to go. They stayed on it. They took replays. They didn't go to commercial. They took several replays. They showed several onboard cameras. And I will give them credit where credit is due. That was good. So a thumbs up there. And the second thing, Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick is what that booth has desperately needed. A voice that as refreshing as his. He did stumble a little bit, but I will not fault him for that. It was his first official race with Fox, because it's the first official race of the season, the Daytona 500. I'll cut him some slack because it was his first race. I'm not going to judge him too harshly. I think he did very well. He did better in the dual races, but he did very well in the 500. I will give him credit. Fox made a good hire there in Kevin Harvick. And I can't wait to listen to his podcast, Harvick's Happy Hour. I can't wait to listen to that. I think the first episode's coming out today as I'm recording this, which is good. But beyond that, the Fox broadcast was atrocious. And the Xfinity broadcast that they had was far worse. They missed the first wreck in the Xfinity race with Hailie Deegan and Daniel Suarez and Kyle Weatherman and Sam Mayer. They missed that wreck right there at the beginning. Now, granted, I only watched about 40 laps of that race before I called it a night. But I did see some of the highlights this morning. They missed pretty much every wreck that you could imagine. That second wreck, when Jesse Love was spinning, they missed that too. Just the Fox, NASCAR on Fox, they don't care. You can see it. It's just pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic what Fox has become. And they were, of course, the go-to, but I'm wasting my breath on that. Everybody knows that Fox is atrocious anymore. But and another thing I want to talk about is NASCAR's officiating. I just seen on Twitter before I started recording this, somebody said that this was the worst weekend in terms of finishes. And I kind of agree with that, because the ARCA race ended with a wreck. The truck race ended with a wreck. The Xfinity race ended with a wreck, but they let him race back, so that, I guess, is a plus. And the Cup race ended with a wreck at coming to the white flag. I think in the Cup race in the 500, they should have let him race back. I think Cindric and Chastain could have moved out of the way to let them race back to the flag, but they did not, and that kind of made me mad. But I'm over it. I think they should have let him race back to the flag, but that's just me. And the truck race, of course, that was a crap show in itself. They obviously learned nothing from the season finale at Phoenix last season, because they're still doing stupid stuff this season. Let's hope it does not translate to Atlanta next week, or I should say this coming weekend. The ARCA, I did not watch a single lap turned for the ARCA race because I didn't think that race would be that good. It wasn't, from what I have seen, because it was also a wreck fest. They started wrecking on lap 4, as I mentioned earlier. It was not good. But overall, the best race of the weekend was the 500. I would say the Xfinity race was a close second because from what I have seen of the Xfinity race, like I said, the first 40 laps, it wasn't actually bad. It just that the Fox broadcast was absolutely atrocious. I actually listened to I listened to the end of stage 2 on the radio. That's how bad the Fox broadcast was, and that's how tired I was too. I just listened to the rest of stage 2 on the radio. I will say there wasn't a ton of big wrecks, and there weren't a lot of cars taken out. But in that Xfinity race the finish of the race, I don't know if Austin Hill thought they were going to throw a caution or what, but they did let him race back, and I'm glad they did. It's just one of those things. But anywho, Daytona is now in the books. We now shift to Atlanta, where I've heard the weather is not going to be much better this weekend than it was at Daytona last weekend. But we will see. I will talk to you again on Friday as we look ahead to Atlanta. And overall, this weekend was okay. It was not great, but we had to wait out the weather. And the race did not disappoint other than the finish, the 500, of course. So again, I will talk to you on Friday. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you on Friday on In the Lead.